Hello everybody, I have a new package today. I'm actually really excited about this because this is a deck that I don't remember how long ago I ordered, but I'm very excited because this is the Cloak brand tarot deck, and they mainly make clothing. This is probably most known fame of like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye. I think they started this clothing brand or whatever. I'm not fully sure. I'm not fully updated, but here we are. Keep that out of the way. Now, my understanding is that this is mainly a pip deck, but it's got fully illustrated major arcana cards. So we will find out what that all looks like in there. So we are going to start by opening it up and everything. It's plastic wrapped. Seems like a really thin, cheap box, I'm not gonna lie. So the deck itself was $39 and then shipping was $11. I live in the US. It was shipping from California. Why it was $11, I'm not fully sure. I have very small hopes for this, to be completely honest. I thought about buying the Major Arcana. I never did when that initially released. So those of you who follow the Cloak brand, I get a lot of the emails at this point. I own one of the original, like when they did like black, white, and gray sweatshirts and t-shirts, like their first launch. I have one of those gray sweaters from when they were trying to clear out to start launching what they're more doing now, I guess. I don't know how else to explain that. But yeah. Alright, so is this like worth $39? So far, not so sure. Okay, doesn't look like we have a booklet. This is your first tarot deck. So sorry. They are incredibly slippery. Got all the cards. Yeah, I don't know how to explain this, but this is almost like if you got one of those rip-off scam decks that would have like a QR code on the back, one of those. That's the type of box this is in. It's like a really cheap box. If you play like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or any TCG that has like those little boxes in the like, they're like meant to be deck boxes, but they don't fit a sleeved deck. They're just like little cheap cardboard boxes. Same thing. That's what this is. So, it smells very cardboardy, and it's not a particularly. Oh my gosh, this is such a cheap deck, you guys. Oh no. Okay, I'm not particularly surprised. I bought this knowing this would probably be a cheap deck, but it's so incredibly cheap. Hold up, is this out of order? Oh my god. Okay, well, let's find out. Okay. Alright, there's our Fool. So is our last two Pentacle cards in the back? Yes. So Ace of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles. Okay. So let's go through the Major Arcana first, and then I'll go through the Minor Arcana with, like, each one will have space, and we'll just kind of look at each number at the same time, and so we can kind of see how they decided to bring them all together in the same way. So we have elements on here. If these mean things, let me know. I don't know. Not particularly remembering, sadly, and they're not on the suit cards, which is weird. Yeah. Give me a second here. I'll look up the elements. Okay, I have looked them up. We have air and fire on this card. We still have the dog. It's an interesting choice to have the dog attacking our Fool. We have the Magician. Oh! So we have our Cup, Pentacle, Sword, and I guess a Wand, which has flame on it, which is a really cool fire element. And this also has the air and fire symbols to it. Apparently today I am not remembering symbols, but we have the snake eating itself. We have It's the infinity symbol. It has another name, the mathematical term for it, and my brain refuses to know what anything is today. I'm so sorry. But I like that we have like flame and earth kind of represented in this, which is really fun. Also, here's the back of the cards. I don't know if you've noticed, but there is some glossing to the borders, and that is on all of the cards. So all of the corners and then the sides. The elements within the cards do not seem to be glossy. High Priestess, classic on the throne. But we don't have our two pillars. We have the sun and moon representations in there. Venus and fire, the Empress. So we have a lot of like classic elements, and yet some things that are missing. I don't know if the artists actually do tarot and know most of the symbolism. There is a certain amount of like, I kind of assume there is, since we have elemental and planets being represented on the major arcana. I'm not sure if we're going to see that throughout the minor arcana as well. Here we have air and fire again on the Emperor. I seem to have a divot in this card, which is interesting. Something went wrong with that. Yeah, this is like, I think the quality of the cards is the most disappointing part of this. I don't think this deck is bad. I just don't think this is a deck that's particularly impressive or anything. The Hierophant here has the earth and water symbols on it. Again, I know a lot of these things I'm aware are symbols, and I'm just full on, my brain has decided to quit. I had a very busy day today, and I opened this up mainly because I was like so excited and I wanted to do it with you guys. My brain is gone though, so I'm sorry. I might put some notes in the description, so feel free to look down there. We have the Lovers. Okay, I have comments, but we're going to have to see about certain other cards, I think. So I'm going to put it to the side. We have Mercury and air being represented. Air and fire again for the Chariot. You have your two decisions, kind of a thing. Moving on. Yeah, there's a lot of classic symbolism that I think if you were just brand new and had other decks, you could definitely use this. We have strength with fire and water. I think some of the power that comes with this card... There is also, I don't know if you can tell, ooh, kind of right there. There's a circle behind her. That's just ever so faint. This would be, you could possibly point that out if it's meant to be there to people. I don't know if it's meant to be there. I can't quite tell. It seems kind of a smudge. I think what I was saying, what I was saying before is that I think this loses some of the power of what strength is, because this doesn't seem as intimidating of a beast in the quiet calm that strength, I think it talks about. That compassionate strength seems almost lost without a Mighty Lion. I have this issue with the Neopets tarot. I don't know if I mentioned it in that video, but it's kind of what I've had issues with in reading, is that the strength card really doesn't fully show, I think, the power of compassionate strength. This one's closer to that though. It's just not to the element or the height that I like to read with, but this could definitely, I could see this card definitely speaking to people who may need it, who don't need the full lion example. So it is still a big animal. The Hermit. Yeah, we have fire and water again. Are these triangles all different in the backgrounds? Yeah. So we are seeing different triangles. So I'm wondering if you could even add water into this for the triangle, or water or earth, because that's facing downwards. But I'm kind of also thinking it's a stylistic choice, but possibly. Possibly. Wheel of Fortune. Okay. So we still have our animals. I believe these are the same symbols as everything on the original one. I don't know. It's not... red always seems like such a negative color that this feels like this card has been painted in a negative light that I'm not used to. Justice. Oh, this one? No, this one had the animals. So, Justice has earth and water symbols upon it. We have our scales, sword. Yep. The Hanged Man. An interesting interpretation. This is far more morbid of a hangman than typically I would ever read the Hangman. Fire and air. I believe this is from their, like, death collection. I think that's what the original Major Arcana is from, is their, like, their collection kind of that death ends. Like, there is an ending at points. So, I just think the Hangman is so much more optimistic. Like, you just need to, like, change your perspective. And oftentimes it feels like the Hangman is just kind of there. Like, he's just hanging around, and it's not necessarily that he's against it. And sometimes even opportunistic, there's certain iterations that make it very optimistic and, like, that he could escape, he just hasn't. This one feels like, no, you're stuck. Like, the hands are behind the back. And it feels like he's, like, strapped to a stake of some sort, a pole of some sort. And that this isn't by choice, this is where you're stuck. And you're going to have to be stuck with this new perspective or something. And I don't know. And the fact that there's no booklet makes it really hard to know what this interpretation is supposed to mean. Which I think is a bit frustrating, because I can see a lot of these cards being very helpful. But a lot of them really have such a unique way. So, we have a scythe and a time glass, or an hourglass for time in our corners here where the symbols have been. Yeah. I guess. It's such a... Death is always an interesting card. This is... Death and the Devil card are always ones that I'm like, we'll see how it goes. We have Temperance of earth and air, with the fire symbol on her, and she's most likely pouring water, so we have a balance of all 4 elements in this image. Which is a really cool way of doing it. Yeah, I don't mind that one. I think that's been my favorite card thus far. Okay, here we go. The Destined Lovers are typically a pair. If you look at most art in tarot decks, especially the original, like, RWS, the Rider-Waite-Smith art, you see how, like, they are basically almost like 2 sides of a coin. And this did not do that. It's my favorite part of the Lovers and the Devil, is that you kind of end up with this couple who's been in different things. In this one, I'm not even going to pretend that they are the same couple. They've made these 2 people have horns. It feels like there is a decision there to... I don't know. I really hate this card. I like these usually as a pair, and there's usually a fun thing where it's like the quickest thing that you can pick up and go, look at what they did across this Major Arcana, and like what you can like look at and perceive. And it's just not there. Yeah, and this has the fire and water symbols, in case that matters to you. Tower, a very classic tower. Earth and air on the symbols. It's interesting that they chose for their lightning bolt an arrow. I think you could even... Things need to be rebuilt. Things have to come to an end, usually in a non-way you want. This could almost be interpreted as a heartbeat, I think. I mean, again, I think there's ways that this can easily be interpreted. I just wish there was like a booklet or something to be like, this is what we were planning and how we interpret these things, and that would be really nice, but I don't think that's what happened. Earth and air here on the star with water. That is typically talked about and being poured from view things. Although it's missing the, like, one's being poured on land, one's being poured on water. They're both being poured in. Just an interesting choice. Not against it, again. There's probably reasons and logic. I'm confused. Alright, the moon. Okay, so we're leaning into some heavy feminine energies. I think what they're implying with this, with the Venus and fire of the moon. The dog, I think these are supposed to be dog skeletons. This element of the dogs howling at the moon, wolves, potentially some canine, but they are impliciting some female energy, usually is what Venus is implying. The moon is so much more than that, that I think Venus being thrown in there really shows a more gendered sign, but I mean, you don't have to gender Venus, but I think they're really kind of pushing it more that way, which, I don't know. Maybe that's me being a jerk. And too gendered, probably. So, fire and water and the sun makes sense. Judgment, kind of a sway, and then who do you think it's swaying towards? I could definitely see it where if you put judgment in between two cards in this one, this is in favor of you, this side would be in favor of not you. You could implicit both ways. More fire and water in the world card, the animals, the candles. Yep. Cool. Yeah, not particularly impressed for a $39 deck. I've definitely bought plenty more that are quite a bit better. So I'm not going to hold all of these up to the camera. And my little arm of a stand here that my deck is on. Well, maybe I can do this. Okay, for the sake of this, you're going to have to see my little leg of the stand here. And my camera doesn't fully love. There's a ton of this, like, tiny little lines that they used for shading, and my camera is not particularly enjoying reading that, so there's going to be some weird blotchy shading on this. It's not their fault, it is my camera's fault, so we're going to have to deal with that. All of the aces, we have a singular heart and how it interacts with the items. So, yeah. I'm going to just kind of try to quickly go through these, just so you can see them, what they look like. I think the swords are the fastest to just turn into pip deck territory, in my opinion, from when I just first glanced through them earlier. The engraving on this particular card is incredibly deep. So, is it just the backs of all of them? Okay, it might be the backs of all of them. It feels very weird. So, no, the other ones don't feel the same way. So, it's just the ones. Alright. Okay, so it looks like 5s across the board are pretty pip. Yeah, and then seem to be keep on going with that. So, which is fine. I don't know. I feel like sometimes the last numbers almost need more. 8 of Wands, like even traditionally, is about travel, and it's just the wands in the air, and it's kind of Pip-esque anyway. So I can't really complain, but there's still something about, like, alright. Yeah, so there's your final 10 pip. Interestingly, with all of the pages, they are all looking left, except our Page of Wands, which is looking right. And most of them are holding their items close to their chest, except for the Pentacles. So there's a couple of little differences, I think, that you could sit and study this deck and have some really good insight on. I think you could really, like, this is always a constant of, I need to do more research. I do. This is just a fact of it. I know head turning of which way they're facing can be a big deal. I think also, like, how close do you hold your material goods can be discussed within this, whereas you might be holding something too tightly in the other categories. There's a lot of really good interpretations here. I just think it's such a bummer that this deck is so cheaply, like, so flimsy. It feels so cheap. I don't know. I'm not a big fan. The Knights all of them, except for the Knight of Swords, has a, I'm assuming, horse in there. And the Knight of Swords has died. It's an interesting interpretation. There is, sometimes the Knight of Swords is like this very hasty, you jumped too soon. So is this that you jumped too soon and now you're dead kind of implication? And had an unfortunately lethal ending to it, which is a bummer, I think. I should have noted also in the Page of Cups, this is the only one that's hips aren't showing. Like, it's not a half body, it's just the top. So there's quite a few different differences, which is nice. And then, like, this, the horse is holding, the left hand is holding, the right hand is holding. You've passed away due to your hastiness. It's a very interesting choice. Like, there is some thought, so I don't think somebody who didn't, like, somebody had to know some stuff. I'm just curious if they, like, looked up a guide and that's all they did. Alright, our queens. So again, we have various ways of head turning and everything. So our Queen of Swords is looking off to her left instead. I don't know, man. They're fine. Our kings, our King of Swords is looking in the opposite direction. It's very interesting that the Swords has, like, almost their whole court cards are very different, but everybody else is, like, the same. A lot of them are meant to be together. So you can see here with the pentacles, they are meant to be next to each other. The reversal image there. The reversal image there. And I think you could even say, like, if you were reading and these came up and it seemed like it was a couple, gender regardless, if you just have a couple or friends even, some relationship, then one reads as a Queen of Swords, one reads as a King of Swords. Are they fighting head on? Are they back to back defending each other? Are they ignoring each other? I think there's a lot of, like, interesting ways you could do this. And then we have our Queen of Wands. Again, the reverse image of each other, with queens having flower crowns, kings having crowns. All the crowns look the same. Yeah, this isn't a particularly hard deck. If you've been trying to figure out what the red things in the skeletons are, they are heart eyes. I am curious to the swords, because they were so vastly different. It felt. What interesting. And I don't think necessarily that the king runs every court. I've listened to a book called Queering the Tarot recently. I plan on listening to it again. She had awesome stuff in there, I thought. Queering the Tarot by Cassandra Snow. In that she discussed the fact that the Knight of Swords feels like it's more running the show in the swords. Because the Knight is all about, like, the passion, that mental going, opinionation, I think, of hastiness every time, kind of jumping the gun, in the Knight of Swords. And it just feels like he really embodies the sword elements more than any other card in the courts. And whereas I think, like, in, like, the Cups cards, the Queen really runs it, because I think the King almost doesn't fully know what to do with all of the emotions, whereas the Queen is like, no, I can take my emotions and offer compassion and offer intuitive knowledge, while also staying very calm and, like, but passionate kind of thing. I don't know. There's lots of things. I just think what are my thoughts? Okay, it's a cheaply made deck. It's not worth the money. I kind of knew that going into it. I thought it would be fun to have just for funsies. To be perfectly honest, I have plans on making almost like a mega deck of cards where I'm going to smash like 6 or 7 tarot decks together. And if this fits the sizing for it, it's probably going to go in there. And eventually what I want to do is read for people IRL and individuals, and have people be able to take home cards that speak to them within the reading, or cards that I think they need to really take time and meditate or think about, and then when they've resolved whatever seems to be afflicting within that card, or they've really considered that card, they can burn it, bury it, whatever. So this is probably going to end up in that deck. I'm unimpressed. My side garbage on the side is unimpressed. The deck is fine. Could you make it work? Absolutely. I don't think it's necessarily a bad deck. I can totally see people loving this deck. I want to make that clear, is that I think some people would love this deck, make it work for them. I just don't think it's for me. I have such... it's the quality for me, to be honest. I would love to make this work, except that I really hate the quality of this deck. If the deck quality was better, I would be far more interested in trying to make this like work. If you're interested and you're seeing this at launch, this is available to be seen for July of 2024. I am picking out Neopet Tarot, so if you are like, I still want to see this deck for a particular thing, yeah, let me know which Neopets in 2024 of July. Let me grab my list. Flotsam, Ixie, Tuscanini, Kiko, Piofin, and Rookie are all in July, and if this deck is calling to you to be in there, or whatever's in August, I haven't looked that far, so you'll have to look it up yourself. Feel free to let me know. But otherwise, this deck's probably not going to be making much of a splash on my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Stay magical, everybody. And thank you for joining me to check this tarot deck out.